Be prepared. Your life is on the verge of something you can't ignore, and nothing will feel the same after it lands. Tomorrow's Mercury-Jupiter interaction isn't just another alignment. While many dismiss it, this event is about to do something extraordinary. This energy is about to peak soon, and it's already starting to expose a crucial detail you were never meant to overlook. Trust me, once this revelation shows itself, you won't be able to unsee it. This will be the theme of your next chapter. As we move toward this transit, something specific begins to surface. The theme of your next chapter, it doesn't appear in obvious ways. It slips in through recurring symbols you keep noticing. A sudden obsession you can't explain, a lifestyle shift that starts calling your name, or a thought that refuses to leave, no matter how busy you are. This is the moment the universe plants a marker on your timeline, almost as if it's saying, this is the tone, this is the storyline. But make no mistake, identifying the theme is just the start. And if you think this chapter begins strongly, just wait, because what unfolds after this point, you wouldn't believe me even if I tried to tell you. The bigger picture that was always there. This might be a relief for you because, for the first time in a long time, your life will stop feeling like a collection of random events and start looking like a sequence, deliberate, connected, and strangely intelligent. Moments that once felt chaotic start falling into place, not because they've changed, but because you're seeing the architecture behind your experiences. And suddenly, the things that frustrated or confused you feel a lot more like stepping stones than obstacles. There's something incredibly empowering about realizing that your so-called setbacks were actually redirection. The relationship that fell apart pushed you toward the connection that's on the way. The opportunity you lost created space for the one that aligns with who you're becoming. The timing that once felt cruel now feels precise. The wrong path now makes sense as the thing that sharpened you enough to recognize the right one. This is the clarity that comes when you zoom out far enough to see the themes of your life instead of just the moments. It's the shift from "why did this happen to me" to "oh, this was leading me somewhere the entire time." And once this wider perspective clicks, you can't go back to seeing your life as aimless or accidental. You start recognizing the invisible structure that's been there all along. And the moment this bigger picture lands, something else sparks to life, a part of you that hasn't been active in a long time but has been waiting for exactly this perspective to wake up. The revelation of your spiritual archetype. One of the most powerful effects of this Mercury-Jupiter trine is the awakening of a spiritual archetype you've carried your entire life without consciously embodying it. Every person moves through the world with an internal role they instinctively gravitate toward, not a title, not a label, but a natural way their energy expresses itself when they stop suppressing who they really are. Most people never reach the moment where this inner archetype becomes undeniable, but this transit pushes it forward so strongly that it feels less like discovering something new and more like remembering something you were always meant to live. This archetype doesn't announce itself loudly. It rises from within like a truth your mind had forgotten but your spirit never did. It shows up as a strange familiarity with a path you've never walked, a deep sense of recognition when you imagine yourself doing something you've never actually done, or a sudden clarity about why certain patterns have followed you throughout your life. You don't choose an archetype. You notice the one that has been shaping your choices all along. Some people resonate with the healer not because they fix others, but because their presence naturally brings calm where there was chaos. Others embody the listener, not just hearing words but understanding the meanings behind them in ways nobody else does. Some carry the energy of the unapologetic pathfinder, the person whose life is defined by doing what others are afraid to try, even when they don't feel courageous. And many people blend pieces of each because archetypes aren't rigid roles. They're fluid expressions of how your deeper nature interacts with the world. This transit makes you aware of this expression with laser precision. It feels like a puzzle piece finally snapping into place. You understand why certain responsibilities feel natural, why certain environments drain you, why certain people misunderstand you, and why you've always felt pulled toward specific types of challenges. That pull wasn't random, it was your archetype trying to lead you. What's emerging now is not a new identity but an unexpressed one. And once this part of you steps forward, it shifts how you move, how you speak, how you make decisions, and what you tolerate. It becomes the silent compass for the chapter ahead. And while your archetype rises, something else starts happening internally, something far more strategic, far more elevated, and far more unusual. Jupiter makes intuition play bigger. This Mercury-Jupiter trine does something extremely rare. It expands intuition in scale instead of intensity. Most people think intuition gets stronger when it becomes more emotional, more dramatic, or more urgent. But this moment flips that idea completely. Your intuition doesn't scream or tug at you. Instead, it begins showing you structure where you previously only saw feelings. Jupiter takes your intuitive sense, which normally helps you navigate small personal concerns, and stretches it across a much wider landscape. It stops obsessing over minor worries, small choices, or temporary discomforts. Instead, it begins revealing the long-term architecture of your life. You start sensing how decisions connect, how opportunities align, and how timing works in layers instead of moments. Your intuition doesn't just warn you about a misstep, it starts showing you the entire sequence of moves that follow any choice you make. This is intuition becoming strategic. It becomes a kind of internal mapmaker, building pathways in your mind that help you understand not only what feels right, but why it feels right. Rather than giving you emotional nudges, it gives you direction. Instead of hinting at what to avoid, it shows you what to build. This is where the power of the transit becomes clear. Intuition is not a whisper, it's a blueprint. Mercury plays a crucial role here because it interprets these intuitive patterns in a way your mind can articulate. Thoughts appear in your head that feel unusually refined and unusually mature, almost like they belong to a wiser version of you. You're not just feeling the future, you're understanding it. You begin predicting responses, anticipating opportunities, and choosing routes that make sense not only emotionally, but logically and strategically. The shift is subtle, but like faltering. You stop reacting to the moment and start navigating the path. Decisions feel cleaner, direction feels clearer. You move with less hesitation because your intuition is no longer foggy or cryptic, it's structured, grounded, and actionable. And now it's time for today's comment of the day. It's rough when people treat you like the person you used to be and not the new version you've become. This one is very real. Growth is personal. It happens inside first, in your decisions, your mindset, the way you respond to things. But the people around you often still see the old version, the one they're used to, and that can feel frustrating. But sometimes that's just part of the process. People update their image of you slowly. What matters most is that you know the shift has happened. Eventually your actions speak louder than the past. Thank you for sharing that honest thought. Your inner strategist wakes up. This stage of the transit activates something different from confidence, motivation, or inspiration. It awakens the part of you that sees patterns, the part that recognizes timing, the part that understands how one small move today shapes the next 6 months of your life. This isn't about thinking bigger, it's about thinking sharper. Mercury becomes the mind that starts connecting dots you didn't even know were related, while Jupiter expands the map so you can finally see where each path actually leads. Suddenly, options open in places you didn't notice before, and choices appear that make you wonder how you ever overlooked them. You begin noticing how your skills, your experiences, your relationships, even your setbacks will fit together in a way that positions you better than you thought. You start anticipating outcomes, reading situations better, and making decisions that feel both bold and precise at the same time. You move smarter, not harder, because your instincts and intellect begin working together instead of pulling in opposite directions. This is the awakening of strategy, the moment when your choices stop being reactions and start becoming moves. It's the shift from surviving your life to navigating it. And once this part of you wakes up, the next opportunity that shows up won't just be recognized, it'll be leveraged. The first sign your future self is finally speaking up. One of the most overlooked effects of the Mercury-Jupiter trine is the way it forms a bridge between who you are today and the person you're growing into. Mercury represents the voice you use right now, your logic, your thoughts, the way you reason through life. Jupiter represents the version of you that exists in your potential, the part of you that thinks bigger, moves smarter, and sees life from a higher vantage point. When these two energies meet harmoniously, it creates a moment where your present self and your future self finally begin to communicate clearly. This communication doesn't sound like intuition, and it doesn't feel like guidance from outside yourself. It's more like suddenly having thoughts that are too advanced for your current circumstances, yet they feel strangely familiar. You might catch yourself thinking in ways that don't match your present limitations. Ideas start coming in that feel like they belong to the person you're becoming 5 years from now. You feel pulled toward a bigger version of life, even if you can't explain why that pull has become so strong. All of a sudden there's a sense of strategy behind your thoughts, a sense of preparedness even if your current reality doesn't reflect it yet. You might wake up with a clarity that feels out of place, or notice that decisions you used to overthink now feel simple because you can already sense the long-term outcome. You're not getting revelations. You're aligning with the intelligence of your future self, someone who already lived through the challenges you're still preparing to face. It's subtle, but powerful. You might feel a calm form of confidence, not because everything makes sense right now, but because a part of you knows it will. It's an internal message. You'll figure it out. Because the version of you who already has is guiding the version of you who's just catching up. This is why so many people feel a sudden shift during this transit, not a breakthrough, but a preview. You're feeling your future before you're living it. This bridge between Mercury and Jupiter doesn't just give direction, it gives identity. And once this connection starts to strengthen, something else begins resurfacing from deep within, something far more personal and long ignored. The return of the unclaimed gift. Every person carries a gift that emerged early in life, a natural inclination, a skill, a way of thinking or creating that came effortlessly. But most people never take that gift seriously. They label it as a hobby, a phase, a quirk, or something that doesn't fit into the practical structure of adult life. And because life gets noisy, that gift gets buried, not lost. Buried, waiting for the moment when it finally becomes necessary. This Mercury-Jupiter trine is that moment. What resurfaces now isn't some dramatic talent awakening or a sudden surge of artistic inspiration. It's the quiet return of something you were always good at but never valued. It rises slowly but with purpose, showing up in conversations, memories, unexpected opportunities, or a renewed interest in something you haven't touched in years. And the strangest part, it feels relevant in a way it never did before. You start to realize that this unclaimed gift wasn't random. It wasn't disposable or insignificant. It was foundational. It was preparing you for a version of your life you didn't have the context to understand back then. Maybe it was the way you could read people effortlessly, or how you solved problems others couldn't see, or how you created things with a sense of intuition that felt beyond your age. Whatever it was, it clicks into place now as the missing piece you didn't know your next chapter needed. This isn't about talent, it's about alignment. A forgotten ability becomes useful at the exact moment you're ready to see its value. It's the universe reconnecting you with something deeply personal, a gift that belonged to your future more than your past. What you once overlooked becomes the key you can no longer ignore. The return of this gift doesn't just feel nostalgic, it feels strategic. And once it resurfaces, the next part of this transit starts putting the spotlight on life in a way that exposes what has been waiting in the background all along. The unexpected teacher moment. One of the strangest and most overlooked effects of the Mercury-Jupiter trine is how it opens the door for wisdom to arrive. Through people you would never label as teachers. It doesn't come through the spiritual friend, the mentor, or the person you usually go to for advice. Instead, it shows up in the most ordinary interactions: the coworker who rarely speaks up, the friend who's usually joking around, the relative who never dives into deep conversations, or even a brief encounter with someone you will never see again. In these moments, something clicks. A comment that wasn't meant to be profound suddenly carries weight. A casual remark lands like a truth you didn't know you needed. A stranger's observation feels more accurate than anything you've heard in months. It's not about the person, it's about the timing. Mercury rules communication, but Jupiter gives meaning. And when they work together, the simplest words can unlock an insight you've been circling around without finding. This phenomenon is powerful because it bypasses your expectations. You're not guarded, you're not analyzing, you're not waiting for wisdom. You're simply living your day on. A message slips through when your defenses are down, making it far more impactful. It feels like life taps you on the shoulder and says, pay attention to this part. You might hear something about work, relationships, timing, priorities, or your own behavior, something that brings surprising clarity. It might even contradict what you thought you believed, yet it feels true in a way you can't logically explain. That's the influence of the trine. It aligns you with meaning through the people who accidentally become mirrors, even if only for a moment. Wisdom doesn't always come from a teacher. Sometimes it comes from a moment. And once this unexpected insight lands, it softens something inside you, preparing you for the shift that happens next, a shift that shows up not as inspiration or emotion, but as a decision that arrives with absolute certainty, even if it doesn't match who you've been up until now. And if you're still here, still listening, you don't need to force the meaning, and you don't need to rush the process. What's coming toward you is aligned with the person you're becoming, not the person you've outgrown. So, as tomorrow unfolds, move with openness. Notice what feels different, notice what finally makes sense, and trust that whatever shifts, reveals itself, or quietly begins its guiding you towards something more expansive than you can see from here.